All right, so in the top right corner, in the help section, you can look through the topics down the left side. You can also enter what you are searching for. So I'm going to start with input tips. So we're going to go over this one really quick. And these are the basic things that you're going to do when you get a new listing. So the very first thing is you must have a signed listing agreement from the seller or sellers. All sellers need to have signed the listing agreement. Once you have that, then you can begin the process through Matrix. So you're going to enter the listing. We call it an incoming listing. At that time, only you, your office manager, and the MLS staff are able to view what has been entered as incoming. None of the other agents or members of the MLS can see anything until you finish it and make it active. So that'll be the next step. So you're going to start it as an incoming listing. You are able to copy listings that have been in our system before. Our Matrix system, sorry, a question just popped up. No, this class today is not for CEU credit. So watch for our postings. We will be offering more for CEU credit, but this one today is not. So to copy a listing, our listings in our MLS go back to 1990. So if the listing was there before and you wanted to copy some of that information, we have a tip sheet that will walk you through it. So each of these links, and I emailed you this document as well. So it came from help@mlsnow.com, our new company name. And you can click through each of these links. So the copy tip sheet will open and walk you through step by step how to copy that listing if you wanted to. Just be extremely careful. If you copy your listing and there were mistakes in that old listing, those are now your mistakes unless you correct them, and be very careful. So you're going to enter your listing. You're going to add photos to your listing. You need to either have taken those photos or have permission from whoever took the photos, whether it be the owner of the house, a photographer, or another agent. If another agent gives you permission to use their same pictures, that's the only time you're allowed to do that. Otherwise, you need to take your own pictures. If you had a property listed and you relisted, or you listed again for rent or some other way, you can copy those same pictures if you would like to. So again, the steps are in the copy tip sheet. You can then add your supplements if you want. We don't require supplements, but it makes it easy and fast for the other agents to have access to view those documents and to print them and get those signed by the buyer if they're ready to make an offer. If anything changes while you have this property listed, please make sure you update any supplements that are affected. You will then check everything that you have entered on the listing, the photos and the supplements, and check the map. If the map is not correct, you can click that tip sheet and it will walk you through the steps of updating your map to the correct location. Most of the properties are going to map properly. The ones that we struggle with are new construction and vacant land. So always double check that it is mapping in the correct spot. You'll complete the listing, add any remarks, and make sure you're following the FHA guidelines. Again, those can be viewed by clicking that link. You can't say anything discriminating, so be very careful and follow those fair housing guidelines. So after you've entered everything and checked it, and it all looks good, you're then ready to activate it. You have to remember that it needs to be activated within 2 business days. And those 2 business days, we don't count weekends and we don't count postal holidays. So I have the 48-hour page open here also. And this shows you your deadline if your listing is effective on a Monday. So effective means that it either says that this listing will begin, let's just use today, for example, January 7th, and extend through July 7th. That's your listing date and your ending date. However, if the seller does not sign it today, and they want to read everything over and check it, and they don't sign it until tomorrow. When they date it January 8th, that is your new effective date. So it's the later date. So if you got a listing today, which is Thursday, the deadline is Monday. So we give you 2 business days following the day of the listing or the requested change. We don't count Saturday and Sunday, so you have until Monday at midnight to complete that process and make your listing active. We do have a postal holiday coming up in January. That'll be Monday, January 18th. So if you get a listing on the Thursday just before that holiday, then Monday is no longer the deadline. You get 1 extra day. The deadline for those will extend until Tuesday, January 19th. If you have questions, the help desk is available Monday through Friday from 8:30 until 5. After 5 o'clock, we do have AnswerLink that can answer matrix questions, but they can't answer anything specific to our MLS, like these specific rules. NAR Clear Cooperation went into effect last year in 2020. And that says once you start advertising a property, you also have to advertise it in the MLS to our members. So you have 1 business day after you begin advertising to have listings into our system. The 48-hour rule is for entering your new listings. We require residential, vacant land, and multifamily listings in our system. We have 2 additional property types that you are welcome to put in, and those are commercial and rental. You also have 48 hours to do all status changes, price changes, and extensions. You must first have a request from the seller to do those items. You have 48 hours to add your primary picture if you've entered a residential or a multifamily property. And you have 48 hours to send us every coming soon listing that you take. If you do any office exclusive listings where the seller does not want their property in the MLS, you also need to send us every one of those within 48 hours. You just send us that paperwork. And if we audit a listing, you have 48 hours to send us the requested documents. The only item that is not 48 hours is going to be changing the status to sold. That one must be done within 14 days of the recording. When you go to send us documents, you have the option of faxing. We have this fax number you can send things to, or emailing. If it's a coming soon listing, send it to coming soon at MLS Now. If it's a membership change, if an agent is being added at your office or leaving your office, send it to membership at MLS Now. And if it's any audits, listing corrections, or office exclusives, you'll send those to QA at MLSnow.com. We cover 32 counties. Those are shown on the map here on the east side of Ohio, all the way down into northern West Virginia. Question popped up. Do I have to email all paperwork of every listing? No, you do not. So a typical listing, you are having it signed by the seller, you are entering it within the 48-hour time frame. The ones that we require are if it's a special coming soon listing, a special office exclusive where the seller doesn't want it in the MLS, or an audit that we have asked you to see the paperwork. So we only audit every 150th new listing that goes into the system. You will get an email from our quality assurance department asking to see the listing agreement on a new listing. Good question. All right. After the listing is put into the system, then you have the option of adding up to 35 photos if you would like. They do need to be JPEG files. They should be a minimum size of 1024 by 768 pixels. And they should all be horizontal pictures. You will see listings that do have vertical pictures. We do accept them, but they do not look as good as a horizontal picture. So we suggest that you use all horizontal pictures. We also share listings on other websites. Many of those other websites do not display vertical pictures in the proper way, and they end up laying on the side and they look very silly. So just use horizontal pictures. You can do up to 3 virtual tours if you would like. There are many companies that offer different options of virtual tours and at different prices. Once they complete a virtual tour for you, they will give you a link, and that link will be copied and pasted into your matrix listing. They will typically give you 2 links. One is called branded, that has been branded with your name, your phone number, website, your contact information. They will give you another one that is unbranded. That is the one that needs to go into the MLS. So it's noted here. Oh, maybe it's not. Unbranded virtual tours only. Disclosures and attachments can be added, as I mentioned, and also open house and broker tour times. You're not required to tell us that you're having an open house, but we do extra advertising for you at realtor.com and ohioopenhouse.com. So no extra charge for extra advertising is always good. All right, so let's go back to our input tips here. So make sure you follow that 48-hour guideline. Coming soon status can be used, but only for 14 days. And you do have to send us every coming soon listing. It's a good idea to print out your listing or at least save a copy to your computer each time you enter a new listing or make a change to that listing. We get so many calls of people saying, I changed it to a different status, or I changed it to a different price and it's showing wrong. If you have that document to show us that you definitely saved it and it did change that price, then we have something to go back to our vendor to see what happened. You can email the listing then once you've activated it to let your seller know that it is completed and have them take a look at it to make sure it all looks good. And I always suggest that you search for your listing after it is entered to make sure that you can find it, so other agents also would be able to find it. If you have any errors that you have made, first check to see if you can update that field that has an error. If it will not let you update it, then you'll need to send us a listing correction. That listing correction goes to QA@MLSnow.com. The form is going to be in Matrix under links. And we have the coming soon form if you ever need that, and the correction form. Mainly the correction form is if you've made a mistake on prices, dates, or selling information. So if you put in the wrong sale price, wrong selling agent, then you will need to use that correction form to have us update that for you. All right, so you've entered the listing, everything is complete. Sharing the listing. If you want to schedule the open house, that will not be an option until you have finished the listing, so you can schedule your open house. It's a good idea to check the public websites and look at your listing and make sure it all looks good on those public websites. You can look at the hit counters and see how many people have how many agents in our MLS system have sent your listing out to buyers, and how many of those buyers have actually opened and viewed the listing. If any of them have made it one of their favorite properties, those are all found in your hit counters. If you haven't done that before, click that link and see how to do those hit counters. List Track is also another place that shows hits on other websites. Updating your listing. So if the seller then wants to make a change, we do have a form that they can use. They do not have to use the form. You can take a written request from them or any emailed request. But if they want to fill out our form, that is great. We have the form linked here. That might be to reduce the price, extend the listing, change the status, and again, make sure to print a copy for your records. So that's just a quick overview. Let's get into the system here and show you how this works. So For those of you taking this class for the first time, you have not seen this screen yet. When you click Add New Listing, if you had not completed all the requirements, it'll give you a red error message that says you can't, you're not yet authorized to do this. So for the few of you that are taking this class for the first time, we will get that updated for you. And you will soon be able to see these screens that we're about to look at. So when I click Add New, I get a choice of the 5 different property types. The property type is determined by the county and the way the property is zoned. So it's not just however you or the seller feels like putting it into our system. It has to be the way that it is zoned. So I'm going to show you a residential example. There are 3 choices across the top. The default is to fill some of the basic items from the realist tax program. Your second option is to copy a listing. If it had already been listed before, you will need the old MLS number. The third choice is to start with a blank listing. And the blank listing is typically just going to be used for new construction or vacant land listings where there's no tax data yet available and no previous listing. So to use the fill from realist tax, you will first need to enter the county that the property is located in. You can either type it in or you can scroll through and highlight from the list. Over on the right, it says search for the tax information. You can either search by their parcel number, their address, or their name. So I'm going to use the address 1010 Main Street. However, I'm not putting street or road or avenue or anything with that. It's just the name of the street. We want to keep this pretty basic in order to find the property in Realist. If you type in too much information, then it may not be exactly the way the county has it, and it won't be able to find it. So I'll click the search button. And it found a property with this parcel number. Make sure that that is the parcel number that you are listing. And it has this person's name and address. Again, double check and verify that that is the property that you're listing. And it has a handful of items that will be automatically filled in for you. Now, the county is not always 100% accurate. Sometimes people have changed things in their property. So it believes there are 4 bedrooms. If you get there and you've seen the property and there are not 4 bedrooms, you will be able to update the listing to the correct number. But it is going to fill in that number 4, and you'll need to update it on a future screen here that we're going to get to. So if this is the correct property, you'll hit the fill button. If this is not the correct property, you're going to have to revise your search and go back to find the correct property. So I'm going to go ahead, fill this one, and it's going to fill in those basic items. This is going to be an incoming listing while I work on it. I'm not going to change anything at this point. I'll continue at the top. We're going to move through each of these tabs. Your input sheet that you fill out on paper follows exactly through these same sections. Your ID that you've logged in with will automatically be filled into this listing agent ID box. I don't know if we have any administrative support here today, but your ID cannot be left in that box. You always need to erase your ID if you're an unlicensed administrative person. You will then put in the correct license number of the agent that will be listing that property. You can find their ID by clicking Find an Agent. If you're co-listing a property, you will also need the ID of the co-lister, or you can look up their name if you don't have their ID. When you hit the refresh button, it will then fill in their name, office, email, and phone number. Showing instructions, most people use the showing time option. We have showing time for the MLS, which gives you the option of scheduling appointments online. Showing time also has upgrade features if you prefer more options than just the option to be contacted when an agent would like to view the property. Some of the fields are automatically filled in, but still, please take a look at those. Is it the right answer? Most listings that are put into our system are exclusive right to sell listings, but there are other options here. So make sure if you do need to change that, you do have that option. Most of our agents are not doing limited service work, so it says it's not a limited service listing. If it is something that you do, make sure you say yes, you're doing limited service, so that the other agents know that they will be working possibly directly with the seller for some of the scheduling and negotiating and things like that. There's also an extra state disclosure form that you need to make sure you have used if you're doing limited service. If you're not sure what something means, there are question marks throughout the system. If you click a question mark, it will give you a little more information about that topic. And this is the Ohio Waiver of Duties statement form that shows what limited service you'll be doing. Compensation is oftentimes just a percentage of the sale price. So you can just say it's going to be 3%. Sometimes though, if the property is going to be over $100,000, some will offer a graduated commission. So you may do something like 3/2%. If you're doing graduated, you'll need to tell us below that it is graduated, and then you'll need to explain that 3% is on the first 100,000 of the sale price, and 2% on the balance of the sale price. So you're going to spell it better than I did, but you get the idea. At the bottom, the instinct everyone has is they want to hit the red button. So I made it the whole way through that page. I want to submit it. It will not hurt anything, but I'm not ready to submit this at this time. So it says if I want to continue entering, I'm going to go up to the top to the General Info tab. I click that General Info tab and I get the next section. So these are the items that automatically filled in from that realist information. It put the owner's name, county, parcel ID, and address. Double check all of that. If it is the correct address, then we are ready to go over to the left side here and map this property. People get very nervous at this point when we say, what is the latitude? I don't know what the latitude is. We're not really asking you that. We want you to click the button, get the latitude from the address. We will figure that out for you most of the time. At this point, it should display a map, and for some reason, I am getting an error. So we're going to keep going and come back. It did fill in the latitude and longitude, but it is also supposed to display that map. So that's number one, get the latitude and longitude. So that did fill that in. Number two is open a interactive map to make sure that it really did find the correct location. So I'm clicking number two, set the latitude and longitude, and it put it on Main Street, and it put it right at the corner there at River's Edge Drive. If that's not where the property is located, you can pick that up and you can move it to the correct location. So you may know that, nope, that's not it, it's across the street. So that's one option that you have. But sometimes it put it far away from where it should really be. So rather than trying to pick it up and move it up a long distance, we have another option over here on the right side. Before I move to this option, I also want to suggest that you always hit the minus sign and just look and see if you really are in Huron, Ohio. We have had plenty of problems in the past where property showed up at 1010 Main Street in Florida or California or some other crazy place. Yeah, it found 1010 Main Street, but it was not the one that you were looking for. So just zoom out and double check we're really in Huron, Ohio. Now, if it did put you in Florida, over here on the right side is when you have the option to jump back to, let's say, Cuyahoga County. From here, you can move the map. You can zoom in and zoom out until you find the correct place on the map. Sometimes it's easier to put in a main street. So if it's new construction and they're putting in a brand new street and it's not on the map yet, put in the street that it's off of. It will locate that street. Let's just say Mozart. So locate that street, and maybe right off of Mozart, they are, building a new, putting a new street in. You could then say, place a new pin and click wherever that new street and new construction will be located. If you need any help at all as you try to figure these maps out, please call us. We will help you. We've done this for a long time, and it's not too hard, but can be a little bit tricky. All right, so we did step number 1. It did finally load my map here for you to see. We did step number 2. We made sure we were really in Huron, Ohio. And step number 3 says choose your Google Street View. Now, Google has not been down every street, so it may not have anything here to show you, but click on it and double check. When I click this one, it does have a street view of Main Street in Huron. However, is this how I want to market this property? No. So let's make this a little bit bigger here so we can see it. This is actually River's Edge. So this house was right on the corner. So the house is here behind the trees, but I want to try to see if I can adjust this and position this better so that we can actually see the front of the house. So if I start to move this, oh, there's the house, but it's the side garage entrance with a whole bunch of cars and even some people. Not really how I want to market the property. Let's try moving this down back to Main Street here so that I can see the front of the house. So you can decide if you like sort of that corner shot, if you like the front shot better. Then once you have it just the way you like it, click the OK button on the right side. So always check all 3 map options. You're going to fill out every red required field. It will not let you finish and save this listing as active for everyone to see it until you have answered each one of these red required fields. Now, based on the county that I selected, this is in Erie County, it will only give me areas for Erie County. So this one was in Huron. The school districts are not the same way. Please be very careful on school districts. There are many buyers that have kids that are looking for specific schools, and you need to make sure you have entered the correct school system. And occasionally there are school systems within Ohio. This lists everyone in Ohio. There are schools with the same names. So for instance, I know green schools. There are 3 different green school districts in Ohio. One of them is in Scioto County. And because that one's the first one at the top of the list, we get people putting listings in green local schools, Scioto County. We don't cover Scioto County. We're probably never going to have a listing that's going to be in green local schools, Scioto County. So make sure you either choose the Summit or the Wayne County, whichever is the appropriate for your listing. Short sale, we have assumed that it's not a short sale, but if you do have a short sale listing, you'll change that to yes. You will fill in the listing date that is in your listing agreement, exclusive right to sell contract. The date may be at the top, I typically say, where again, it said January 7th through July 7th. So you would use our calendar and find the date that was filled in on that paperwork and say, okay. Or signature date is the other option if your company does not have those 2 dates included in their contracts. The expiration date, you can use this little lookup, but sometimes to go out 6 months or a year is not fun. So you do have the option of just typing in. You can type the zeros if you want. It's not required. You can type 2021 if you want. It will work either way. The list price, be very careful. If the seller has asked to list this house at $200,000, it will not let me type a comma. So even if I press it on my keyboard, it's not working. Oh, kind of decimal point, I'm surprised by that. No commas. So you just have to count very carefully and make sure you get 3 more zeros in that list price. And double check this, triple check this, make sure you have the right price before you activate this listing. We get corrections every day. They forgot a zero, they added an extra zero, and it's showing to the public on other websites with the incorrect price. So be really careful there. This next one has a note with it. You're only entering the date from a signed coming soon authorization form here. If your customer didn't sign a coming soon form, you skip this box. You don't put anything at all in this box. But let's talk about if they did want to coming soon. If they listed this on January 7th, but they said, you know, we're not ready to show it. We need to get some things done first. Can you give us 2 weeks? So they listed it January 7th, and that's what goes in this box. But the coming soon form says they want to start showings on January 21st. That's going to be their active date, January 21st, 2021. However, even though we allow you to go up to 14 days maximum, we don't always suggest that is what you may want to do. Our board of directors ruled that once that date is selected, it can't be changed to an earlier date. So if they worked really hard this weekend, got everything completed, and on Monday they say, oh, we're ready. Can we make it active now? Can we start the showings? No. If the paperwork was signed for January 21st, then that is what you are stuck with. So if you think that there is any chance that they might be ready sooner, the suggestion is to only have them go out maybe 5 to 7 days. So they might start off saying, I think I'll be ready on January 12th. On January 11th, I'm going to check with them and see if they still need more time. I have until the 21st that I can still have them revise and move it out a little bit further, but I can't come back in. So be really careful with your coming soon listings. Also, just a reminder here, you cannot show the coming soon listing until it goes active. So don't. There is a big fine for doing that. Other agents may ask you, but it is not allowed. Do not show a coming soon listing. All right, so you're answering all of these questions. Down here at ownership, it is not a red required field. However, the state of Ohio says if it's an agent-owned property, that is something that you do need to disclose. So always remember that. Annual taxes. We do give you access to realist tax information. However, realist is always behind the county auditors. So you do want to make sure you're looking up the annual taxes directly from the county auditor. Up at the top, I have Matrix open, but I also have the dashboard. When I first logged in, you remember this dashboard screen, over on the right side, one of the options is the auditor section, and I can open up the auditor to see that tax information if I need to. Assessments. So the number that you've typed in here, let's just say that our taxes are $1,000. If that number includes any extra assessments that have been added in, then you can say yes. Assessments are sometimes just temporary, where it's something like sidewalks, sewers, street lights that are being added to their neighborhood, and they're being assessed to pay for that. Assessments, though, are sometimes permanent items, and they will always have that fee on their tax bill. So either way, if it's been added in, you have to answer that question. Homestead exemption. This is a discount that some sellers will apply for and qualify for. Don't just assume that your seller has qualified for it. You have to actually look and see if that application was completed and approved. And then if they do have a discount showing at the auditor site, you can say that this $1,000 is discounted for them. The new buyer would have a higher tax amount if they don't also qualify for a homestead exemption discount. The homestead exemption discount, when you click for help, says they may qualify based on their age or disability. So be careful there. We have had calls from agents where deals fell apart at the last minute because they were not aware that there was a homestead exemption discount in that tax amount that was in the system. Additional parcels, sometimes they just have the one parcel that you've entered up above, and that's all they're selling. But sometimes they have extra land around their house that will also go with the sale of the property. So make sure you tell us each parcel number that will be included with that sale. At this time, I am going to go ahead and submit this listing. I could keep going, but let's submit it and see what happens next. You will always receive this warning when you are in the incoming status. And it says to save your incoming listing, you'll hit submit listing below. If you were ready to make it active, you can go back and change the status to active. But I just want to keep this one as incoming. And it warns me that I have not yet entered my square footage. Square footage is not a red required field, but it is something that people are always looking for. So we just want to remind you, and it's okay if you didn't want to have any square footage show, but we just want to remind you that you did not do that, and people may want to see that. So we're going to hit the submit listing button. And I get a successful message that it has assigned an MLS number. Now, no one else can see this MLS number yet. I haven't finished it. But if I want to go back and edit that listing, I'll need that MLS number. At this time, it says I can go ahead and enter my showing time instructions. I can go ahead and add my photos or my supplements. You don't have to do any of those right now if you don't want to. You can just go back to your home page. You have saved it, and you can come back and finish it as long as you do that within the 48-hour time frame. If you want to go ahead and add some pictures in right now, go right ahead. So I'll click Add Edit Photos. There's a little description here reminding you again to use horizontal pictures that are 1024 by 768. You don't want to go any smaller than that. It's okay to go larger. But if you use a smaller photo, it doesn't fill the space. We will not enlarge it to fill the space because it will just be very blurry and grainy. If you make changes to your photos, there's a note here that it does have a delay on your computer as you're updating photos. So you're not going to see the photos immediately, but other people using the MLS will be able to see changes immediately. And we have the option to import and copy photos from another listing if it was your listing. Remember, you can't use somebody else's photos. So if you want that option, you will click. It will ask you for the MLS number. I don't want to use that option at this point, so I'll go back to the upload option. And so for 1010 Main Street, I'm ready to browse and find some photos. All right. So if these were pictures that I had just taken, you probably took more than 35 pictures of the property. So you are going to hold the control key on your keyboard and then select each of the photos that you would like to include. All right. So that was a question that was asked earlier that I wanted to make sure I had covered. So you're holding the control key on your keyboard, choosing up to 35 pictures, and then click open. So it's going to start to load in those photos. As it loads them, if it finds one that is not the recommended 1024 by 768, it's going to put this red dotted line around it. Now it says in the note that these photos are not the recommended minimum size. Doesn't mean we won't accept it. It just means it may not look the best if it's not the recommended size. Up at the top here in red, it also says the primary first photo must be the front outside view, which my primary photo right now is a bedroom. So I do need to correct that. In order to move the pictures, everybody wants to pick up the picture right in the middle. That doesn't work. It won't move. In order to move the pictures, it tells you at the top, you have to hold the word slot. So I'm going to slot 3, I'm holding on to slot 3, and I'm moving that over to the left and letting go of it. Now it really did move it. Everything is good. All the other pictures shifted over one space. And I can move any of these other pictures around as well. I may want the foyer to be the next photo after the front. So I can pick up slot 3 again and move it just a little bit to the left and drop that in. Yes, each MLS decides how many photos are allowed. So our board of directors decided on 35, and that's all that you'll be able to put into our system. If you do see a picture here that you decide you don't want to use, you can check the box, and then at the bottom it'll say delete that picture. Are you sure? Yes. And then if maybe there was a different angle or view that you'd prefer to use, you can go back and browse and select a different or more photos to include. And then if you need to move that photo to a different spot, you can. Once you have all the pictures that you want, you're going to read this image upload certification at the bottom. This says that we are allowed to put a watermark on it, that this is now loaded into MLS Now, that you had permission to upload these photos into our MLS system, and you will click the red button at the bottom to certify and save. And it was successful. So my photos are now saved. I just want to show you a couple options here. As you are loading photos, things to keep in mind. All right, so this is a real listing that has been in our system, and they used a vertical picture mainly of a tree. So try to get a horizontal picture more angled of the front of the house. This is probably one that the seller sent, that they liked this picture and they wanted their agent to use this picture. A lot of times though, as pictures are being emailed back and forth, they choose to send the small size rather than the original full-sized picture. So the agent went ahead and used that small-sized photo instead of asking the seller to send them a larger full size. So it doesn't look very good, and it doesn't fill up that box. Snow photos, we are in Ohio and we do get snow. So you will have snow in some of your pictures. You have 2 business days to get the photo loaded, and there might be snow. Once that snow is gone, it's a good idea to retake that front picture and load that into the MLS system. You're not required to do that. This agent left this snowy picture here for almost 2 years, and then the house expired. So probably not in your best interest or the seller's best interest to leave those snowy pictures. The sign is not allowed to be visible in any picture in the MLS system. If we see a sign, we will cover it up. We will notify you that that is not allowed and that we have covered it up and that you may want to take a new photo. These photos are shared on the public websites as well. And this is how it looked on realtor.com to the public, but the agent chose not to upload a new picture there. We do have some photos for you if you have a vacant land, a to-be-built listing, or a new construction listing. You do have to have a photo still loaded. So if there's not really anything yet to take a picture of, you can use one of our placeholders. These are under links. We suggest you get out of your car to take the picture, but if that's not in your best interest, please at least try not to get the car window there in your photos. Fingers, we suggest don't go in your photos either. So we're hoping just to see a regular picture of the property, no snow, not vertical, not behind all the trees, no car windows. So keep those in mind as you are doing your photos. So we have started this listing and now we want to go back in and work on it again. There are 2 options. On your homepage, you have a box called My Listings. And I had to hit the refresh button since I had just worked on a brand new listing. It was not here yet, but now it shows that I have one incoming listing. It is in red, reminding me that I've got to get this finished within the 48-hour time frame. Other things that will turn red are if you have the listing added but no picture. You've got 48 hours to get the picture loaded. It's going to turn red and say you have a listing with no photo. And the third item that will turn red to notify you is if you have a listing about to expire, the listing will turn red 2 weeks before the expiration. You will also get an email from us that the listing will be expiring in 2 weeks. That's a good time to talk with your seller and see if they want to extend it. The sooner you get the extension request, the sooner you can go in and put the new date, and it won't expire out and cause it to show up on a hot sheet as an expired listing, and other agents start calling and contacting that seller. They get very upset by that. So watch these red notifications. These homepage boxes can be moved around. If you would like to move yours up higher so that you see this quickly as soon as you log in each time, you can move it where you like it. So I have an incoming listing that I want to work on. I click on the link and it says I have 1010 Main Street. So let me show you these buttons below. I want to edit that listing, but it's not letting me. It says I must check the box first. So I first check the box. Now the buttons I can click on. I'll click the edit button and it shows me the property. That is the property that I need to edit. Please always look at that. We get requests every day of people that went in to edit a price and they were on the wrong property and they put a wrong price on a wrong listing. So we have to fix those, and we'd really rather that you just check here really fast first before you start clicking these buttons to edit the listing. So if I click on residential listing input, it takes me right back into the screen with all my tabs. I had gone through the agent and the general, and I'm moving on to features. Some of these items automatically filled in. The county says that house was built in 1978. I just need to say then that that is the actual year it was built. Above grade finished square feet is not in red, but from the county auditor, you can tell us how many square feet they have. Let's say this one just has 1,000 square feet. Where did I get that information? From the auditor, from Realist. Then what below grade finished square feet do they have? We're not asking you for the whole basement. If there's nothing finished in the basement, you do not put anything in here. If they have finished part of the basement, just tell us the number of square feet. So it might be 1,000 square foot ranch with a 500 extra square feet finished in the basement. On the final printouts, it will show those two numbers, and then it will add them up and say it's 1,500 total finished square feet. You do still have to choose a source if you have filled in a square footage. Maybe they took a fireplace out, they didn't like it, and now there's only one fireplace. This is where you're going to correct items that the county filled in for you automatically. The boxes down below are options where they may have more than one answer. So let's look at the garage. The garage might be attached, but it also may have a door opener, a drain, electric, heat. Tell us as much as you can, as long as you're positive that it has it. There are often buyers that are searching for specific things. They may want to work in that garage and they want to know that it is heated with electric. So their agent is going to be searching for those specific choices. And if your listing has it, but you didn't mark it, then that agent won't know to show it to their buyer and they'll miss out on it. A question popped up. Can I start putting the info of the listing and save it as a draft version and finish it later when the seller will be ready to list? Yes. So let me submit this listing one more time and show you. Again, it warns me I'm just saving as an incoming listing. When I was on that screen just a minute ago, and I went to my incoming listings, there is a deletion date. We will keep this for 90 days. So once you start the listing, you have until April 7th to either go in and modify it. Each time you modify it, it pushes it out 90 days from the date it was modified. And so if you thought they were going to list with you on April 1st, and on April 1st, they tell you, you know what, give us another month, we'll list it May 1st. Then just go in, check mark that listing, edit that listing, just edit something on it. So I'll go to the rooms and I'll say that all 4 bedrooms are on the first floor because it's a ranch, and I'll submit that. So now it will push that out 90 days from that day that I submitted that change to that listing. All right, so we were on features. Okay, sorry, rooms. So the county said it has 3 full bathrooms. Again, if that is not an accurate number that you saw, then you can put in the correct number. Where are those bathrooms located? The lower level is going to be either a basement, or if it's a split level house, it's going to be that lower level of the split. So maybe they have 1 bathroom in the basement, and maybe they have 2 bathrooms on the main floor, and this house doesn't even have an upstairs. So you still have to put an answer. It's red, it's required. You have to put a 0 there. All right, half bathrooms. Where are the half bathrooms? Well, there aren't any, so those are all 0s. And how many laundry areas are there? There may be 1 in the basement, but the people didn't like going down the stairs all the time with their laundry. So they also added 1 on the first floor. So there are 2 areas for laundry, 1 on the basement, 1 on the main floor, and 0 upstairs. Room types, these are not required, but everybody wants to know room dimensions. So please try to tell us as much as you can about these properties. The size is just the number of feet. We don't use inches, and we don't use any symbols or letters, just the number of feet. This room is on the first floor. It has a fireplace. The window treatments are not staying for the buyer, and it is carpeted. So I've marked all of those items, and I'm ready to click the More button and choose the next room. So there's a kitchen, and I can complete those items as well. Just be careful with the flooring. Again, it will let you select more than 1 item. It might be carpeted right now, but it's over a hardwood floor. We had an agent once pull back the corner. She saw hardwood, so she marked that it also had hardwood floors. However, when the buyer purchased it and didn't like the carpet, they tore out that carpet to find that it was just an outer edge hardwood. It was not over the full floor. So please be very careful. Even though our reports always say that the information is deemed reliable, but not guaranteed, that does not mean there's not going to be a lawsuit about it. So be very careful that you are putting accurate information on all of your listings. So just keep hitting the More button until you have all the rooms described, and then we'll go up to HOA and remarks. HOA is a homeowner association. If there is one, you'll say yes, you'll tell us about it and answer all the questions. If not, you can skip those items to the right. Maintenance fee is for condos. If you're listing a condo, you always want to say, yes, they have a maintenance fee, and then explain everything to the right. Public remarks. Question, will my broker have automatic access to my incoming listing? Yes. The broker or manager can immediately see the incoming listing. Yep. All right, public remarks. You want to be careful here that you're not saying anything discriminating. You're not saying anything about you as a listing agent or your office. There is a question mark over to the right side, and it will remind you to describe the property only with no contact information. Follow FHA advertising guidelines, and we do have links here that'll show you examples of what's acceptable, what they caution you against using, and what they say is totally unacceptable. Broker remarks are only seen by other agents. You're a little more free to enter what you would like into the broker remarks. However, there are still things that cannot be said even in the broker remarks. No mention of title work and no mention of total commission. So we don't talk about either of those items in the MLS system. All right, your last tab is going to be, is there an electronic lockbox? So if you are using an electronic lockbox, you can say yes, and you can put in the serial number if you would like to. This is simply for your own reference to know which lockbox you have put in which property. However, let's talk quickly about Supra e-keys. So more and more people are using these electronic lockboxes on listings, and you need to have a Supra e-key app on your phone in order to be able to open those. And to do that, you're going to go to our MLS Now website, and you will click the Supra option at the top right corner. It will ask you to fill out your name. And the most important item here is you're choosing a 4-digit PIN number. The 4-digit PIN number is what you will use each time you put into your phone app to open a lockbox. So we have to get that set up for you before you can do any showings with electronic lockboxes on them. So we have sent out notice after notice to please get this set up. We still have not reached everyone. So if you have not done this step yet, please go to this page, fill this out, choose your PIN number, and we will get you set up so that you are ready to go. If you have a buyer call you today and they want to see this house and it's got an electronic lockbox, you've got to have that e-key app set up on your phone and the PIN number activated. So enough of that. Back to our inputs. We talked about photos. Let's talk about the supplements. So if I click to add supplements, it will ask me what it is that I'm adding. Let's say it's a lead paint disclosure, and it will ask me to choose the file. So I don't actually have one scanned that I can load, but you would just click and find it on your computer. So the hardest part is scanning the file and then knowing where you've saved that file. This part is easy if you know where the file's located. After you choose the file, you will hit the upload button. Make sure though, after you are all done uploading each of the documents, you might have lead-based paint, you might also have property disclosure, you're gonna load each document. They're gonna show you at the top what's loaded, and you still have to save it or they will all disappear. So nothing difficult, just make sure you follow the steps there. All right, so I'll cancel out of that. All right, so if the listing is entirely entered now, you want to double check it. You click the MLS number that's been assigned, you will see the listing that you have entered. So this is what I've entered so far. You can see I've entered 5 photos, some basic information, and you're just going to check everything. Check all your links, make sure your map opens, make sure the realist opens. So at this point, either you will be ready to make it active, or you'll see things that you still need to finish and maybe correct. I like to copy the MLS number before I leave it. There's no quick, easy button to take you right to the edit screen. So we either need to go back to the home page by clicking the cloud, or we can go to the input screen. Since I've already shown you the main page, let's show you the input screen this time. When I click input, I'm not adding a brand new listing this time, I'm modifying a listing. So I want to choose the agent and select the address. So that's one option. Or it says you can just paste the MLS number. Since I had copied it, I like to just quickly paste it, edit that listing, and I know I'm in the right place. So we looked at residential listing input. We looked through all those tabs. I didn't show you the virtual tour screen. This is simply where you're going to copy and paste the virtual tour website that you're vendor that you've purchased that from has given to you. We do have the option of a regular virtual tour. If you have purchased a 3D virtual tour like a Matterport, you can copy and paste that link down below. And we automatically will give you a free virtual tour through Property Panorama. So there's nothing that you need to copy and paste here. I'm just going to cancel that one. Mapping, if I just want to update the mapping really fast, it's in the residential input section, or I can just go straight to the mapping and I can go through the 3 steps. I can add more photos, I can add more supplements, and I can add my showing time information. So after the listing is completed, I will go to my residential listing input. I'll say I'm ready to make it active unless the seller has signed a coming soon form. Then I have to go to coming soon status. So just be careful there. If I'm ready to make it active, I choose active status and I hit submit listing. However, you need to pay attention. A lot of people just click the button and then move off of that screen, and they don't realize that it did not work. So down at the bottom, it says there were errors. So I can click that red link and it will pop up and tell me what errors I need to correct. So this one is telling me there are a whole bunch of required fields that I forgot to answer. Sometimes it will also tell you if you have an odd entry that it thinks maybe you made a mistake on. We used to have the year built right next to the number of bedrooms, and people would enter the year built was 3 and the number of bedrooms was 1975. And so the system would go, really? Are you sure you have 1,975 bedrooms? So it will try to warn you if it sees something odd. It doesn't find everything, but it will try. So each place that there's an error has a red circle with an exclamation at the top. So I've messed up something on the agent info. I go to that tab, and then there is a field that will have a red triangle. So I said it was graduated, but I didn't explain how much is on the first 100,000 and how much is on the balance. So I still need to do that. On general info, something is red, and that's the school district. I did not yet select what school district it's in. So you're just going to go through and fix each one of these red mistakes. I forgot to answer basement. Yes, there is a basement. Okay, you get the idea. So once you've fixed all of that, you will hit submit. I still haven't fixed all the errors though, so there are still red mistakes. So at this point, if I just want to save what I've fixed so far, I have to go back to incoming status. I can't make it active yet. I'll still have to take more time in a few minutes to fix all of the errors, but I'll go ahead and submit. I changed a few things. Submit it again. So make sure all the errors are fixed and that it's active within the 48-hour time frame. Then go to your search page. Once you've made it active, let's say I just listed this as active, a single family in Cuyahoga County, area 204. It says there are 22 houses for sale. Click results. My new listing should have an N. It's going to stay an N for a week to tell everybody that that is new on the market. And it looks good. It worked. Let's try a different area here. If you do a price reduction that the seller has requested, an arrow shows up for a week to let everybody know this price has gone down. And if a property goes back on the market, it shows a B for a week that it is back active. If you click on either the price arrow or the letters, it will show you the detail. So this one was contingent and it's now back on the market active. So always look for your listings. Every once in a while, it gets, accidentally marked as a condo. So when you search for single family houses, your listing doesn't show up there. So you have to go and look and see what happened. And you see, oh, it got marked as a condo instead of a single family home. So nobody's going to find it. You can make that correction if needed. And then hopefully, now that it's on the market, you will get some offers. And you will need to change the status if the seller accepts one of those offers. You have 48 hours to change the status. Out of the active status, you have the option of going to either contingent or pending status. So let's take a look at these status options. If I go up to the help button, in the MLS basics, we have lots of basic information here for you. As a new member, you have 30 days to join a board and take the introduction class, if any of you are new members and need to be reminded of that. We have 5 property types and 5 input sheets here for you that's explained. We have a list of lots of common real estate abbreviations and acronyms. It can be very confusing as you come into real estate, if you haven't been in this your whole life, to know what people are talking about. So this can be very helpful here, abbreviations and acronyms. Days on market is explained. The big point here to point out is that CDOM will be reset if the property is off the market for 45 days or more. Otherwise, it just keeps getting added in as properties keep expiring and being relisted as they're trying to sell them. Square footage. We are not the people in charge of square footage. So ANSI square footage definitions are here. The DMC safe harbor about using information or photos. You have to have permission. The end user license agreement, areas in our MLS, the counties in our MLS, the schools, and whatever I was looking for, I did not find here. I forgot what I was actually going to open. Oh, statuses. There we go. I must have skipped right past that one. This is the one I was looking for. So your statuses, we started as incoming, then we either go to coming soon status or active status. Once it goes to active status is when it starts counting the days on market. If you choose to go into the under contract allow showings, so it's up to your seller once they accept the offer. If you go to the allow showings, we will keep marketing that property on the public websites and we will keep counting the days on market. If your seller requests no more showings, then you'll choose the status under contract, no showings. We used to call this pending and contingent, so that's what we still use these letters in our searches. If you do the speed bar search, it's the C for contingent and P for pending. While those are under contract and they are working through the closing process, if the listing expires, we automatically will change it to an under contract but expired listing. So we're still waiting for the sale to go through. But if the deal were to fall apart, you can't relist it. You can't put it back. I'm sorry, you can relist it, but you can't put that one back active on the market because that listing is expired. So you would start over with new paperwork, a new MLS number, and relist the property. And then finally, once it transfers, it goes into sold status. Remember, you have to do that within 14 days. If you miss the 14 days, it's a $100 penalty. Penalties are emailed to you. If you get a penalty, we have the option of waiving one penalty per calendar year by either taking our rules class in person or online. If you choose the online option, there is a video to watch and then a quiz to take. You have to get 100% and we'll waive one penalty per year. But just be careful and make sure you get things done in 48 hours or 14 days. If A listing is active. It means it is available for showings. We can schedule appointments. If the seller at any time does not want to show the property, they need to request that you take it temporarily off the market. We don't care the reason, they just want it temporarily off the market. They will fill out the status change form and give you an estimated back on market date. That back on market date needs to go into the remarks exactly like that, so that agents will have that information to share with customers. If this date is flexible though, if the seller is not ready on the date they expected, you can update the listing to a new date. It does not automatically change status on this date. You still have to go in and manually put it back active when they are ready. And finally, withdrawing a listing, sorry, not finally, there's one more. Withdrawing a listing, if the seller decides not to sell and they ask you to withdraw their listing, there is a place on the status change form for them to fill that out. They ask you to withdraw it. The second part is up to the broker. It's going to ask if the broker is releasing the seller from the listing agreement or not releasing them. If they are released, it will show in our system to all of our members that the listing has been withdrawn and released from that broker. Anybody is free to relist that property then at that point in time. If the broker says they are not releasing it, then they are still under that exclusive contract with that seller until it expires. Once it expires, then it will go to expired status. Then they're free to relist with someone else. So it's up to the broker. That part confuses agents all the time, and they're not sure what that means with release or no release. And expired listings, we do that status change automatically at midnight if the property did not sell. If the seller wants to extend it, it is a really good idea to do that before midnight. That way it never goes into the expired status and it just continues on to the new extended date. Ohio law says you need to know before midnight. The MLS rule says as long as you know before midnight, but you don't get into the computer system to change it before midnight, even though we strongly suggest you do. If you don't get in there before midnight, you do still have the 48 hours in our MLS window to put in the new extended dates. All right. Let's go to a listing that's completed. So the completed listings will have lots more options for you. You won't have quite that many. I have extra as a staff member. But you will have the option to change it to under contract, to change the under contract type, change it to under contract no showings, change to sold, change to withdrawn, change to temporarily off the market, and add open houses. If you add an open house, you will be asked for the type. New this past year was live streaming open houses. Before that, we just had the option to do broker opens. We're typically Tuesday mornings, open just to the agents, and public open houses, typically Sundays, but could be any day you want. So I'm going to say there's a public open house for this property coming up on January 10th from 2 p.m. until, let's just say 3 p.m. And yes, it is going to actively be marketed to the public websites. People are like, yeah, the listing's active. That's not what we're asking here. Do you want us to actively market this property on the websites? We will do that automatically until 3 o'clock. At that time, we will stop marketing it and the open house is finished. If you decide to have another open house, you do not want to, this will have passed and it will be done. You do not want to come into here and just say, okay, there's another one on the 17th. If you just change that date, you often forget to change the status back to marketed. So what we prefer you do, instead of changing dates, keep that in the history and hit the more button and say, I'm having another public open house on January 17th. And now it's actively going to be marketed, and you can put the times that you want that. And you can submit that. So that is the open house entry. I think I've covered everything. It didn't take me 2 hours. I'm sure you're all happy to hear that. I have one final poll question for you here. We will put this poll question up. All right, and if you have questions, you can email help@mlsnow.com. That's always at the top of your matrix screen. You can call our help desk. That number is also at the top there. Please call us and ask us the question rather than just guessing, doing it wrong, and then having to call us and figure out how to fix it. We'd much rather tell you how to do it the right way than have to figure out how to fix it. Those of you that took this class for the first time, we will be setting you up for access to the input screen. So once I give this to Lori, you will be able to see all of the choices of new listings that you can enter or changes that you can make to your listings. Rentals are optional in our system. So if you have a rental, you can enter those at any time. They don't have to be entered in 48 hours. Once the rental is in the system, though, you do have to make all the price changes and status changes within 48 hours. So everything is 48 hours, but the rentals are just optional property types. Can you review where we sign up for Supra? Yep. At the mlsnow.com website, click the Supra button. And a reminder that the recording will be under the Matrix Help tab shortly.